Welcome back, Commanders. Architect here once again. And we are coming back to you with Legion of the Stars qualifying tournament #1 action. Now, we're going to change the format up a bit here. So far, I have cast a whole lot of individual games, and they got really tedious, especially around that round of 16, where I had 8 games on Forbidden Pass. Now, that was a bit much Forbidden Pass for me, and probably a bit much for you as well. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to try and concatenate all of these into one casting session and continue through the rest of the tournament. We'll skip over some of the matches so that we don't have a whole lot of play on the same maps over and over. So, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the game here. Blast Chilled versus Mad Mozart, while Blodier is playing Yudi. Then we'll go and check out Nexus versus Heaven, while Zlo is taking on Bully Dozer. So, without any further delays, let's jump on into the game zone where we're going to watch Blast Chilled taking on Mad Mozart. And we are underway. So we are now on the map Hollow, which is a nice shift up from Forbidden Pass. It is going to be a lot colder as well, given that there's a lot of ice on here. So let's check out the starting builds for these guys. Alright, we have got Spatula Khan, also known as Blast Chilled. He's going to go UEF. What have we got in terms of the initial build orders for him? Well, we can see he's going UEF with a first land factory getting adjacency on one of those mixes, and we can see plans for the core mixes after that, of which there are only 3. You have to get all the way out here to get to that 4th one, and then he will be putting some power generators down, and he will be going for a 3rd air factory by the looks of it. Oh, yes, I think that is going to be the plan for him. So he's going to get a lot more land spam up and running very fast, which is a good plan on this map because it is small and very land spammy. We've got a similar build over here from Stay Nice, who is Mad Mozart. So you have to keep up with the name changes here, but we can deal with that for now. So he's going to throw down his first land factory as the Cybran faction. He's going to get his core mixes and some power gens down. And then let's just have a look at that build order, which is next. I believe he is going to go 2nd land and then 3rd air. So that is going to be a fairly similar build to his opponent there. Both of these guys wanting to get early double land factories up so they can spam across the map. And that is exactly what we're going to start seeing now. We do have a Mech Marine out. That's the light assault bot for UEF. He's going to head across to the middle. He's going to try to pick up some Wayward Engineers. I'm not sure how successful he's going to be because there's not been a lot of expansion yet, but this Hydro, that is always a good target. You can see the engineers coming on into the area, but not a lot of protection for them. And once you get an assault bot around that mountain, well, they are free reign to rain death down upon those Engies. Now, there are some scouts coming out from Mozart there. They are going to pick up on their radars exactly what is going to be incoming, but I'm not sure there's a lot to deal with it. He does have a single Mantis here. If we can bring that up in time, actually look how close it is to the Engineer. That is going to be no problem at all for him to get in and be able to use that Mantis to keep the Engineer alive. This guy down here is maybe at a little bit of risk, but interestingly, so far we're seeing Blast Chilled with his 1800 rating being a lot more aggressive than Mad Mozart. It has been quite some time since Mad Mozart played seriously, and I think the grand prize of $500 dues, which is so generously donated by Legion of the Stars, I think that is bringing him out of the woodwork and convincing him to play a little bit. Here we've got some micro going on. He is managing to successfully dodge most of those Mantis shots. Wow, that is very interesting. He is still in the yellow, and the Mantis is just about dead. Look at the micro. Is he going? Wow, he managed to do it. That is a hero Mech Marine there, but unfortunately another Mantis standing by to finish him off. So after that epic micro, he is still shut down and does not manage to get an engineer kill. That is so sad for him. Alright, he does have his own engineers building away on this Hydro, 2 of them. He does have a striker in support as well, so that's going to try and keep those guys alive. There is a vulnerable engineer or 2, but it looks like he is Mad Mozart of Spatula Khan. We are getting confused with the names. Blast Chilled is going to do a fairly good job of getting a lot of guard duty units out to keep those engineers alive. We can see leading with strikers there just to make sure he doesn't get picked off the same way as he was trying to do to Mozart. All right, Mozart moving to the center with a single Mantis now. Now that cannot reclaim, so it can't pull up any of that mass, but it will just try and keep the area free of wayward engineers coming from Blast Chilled just to try and secure that a little more. We'll probably see the ACUs moving out towards the center. And finally, we actually have some air units on the field. We've got a scout out there from Mozart. What are we seeing? Well, no, the air factory is still not even completed. There's a lot of power gens which have been thrown down. And finally, just getting that air factory finished. And it looks like he is going to quickly start producing scouts and interceptors to try and get air control. Now, there's not a lot to be done, but if you can get air control, then those bombers will be able to make a difference. And if you can force your opponent to have to mix anti-air units in with the army, that's going to make it that much weaker when it comes to an actual engagement. All right, the Mantis coming in from Mozart, trying to take out that Hydro and stop it from being built, but way too late there, and some strikers ready to pounce, but not following it down. They're just going to sit back and let the Mantis escape, and unfortunately it looks like these guys here are going to pick up this engineer, and Blast Chilled will lose that. And he's also going to get a bit of a hit on these two tanks down here. So they are currently trying to guard this NG, but I'm not sure if they're going to be doing a very good job, especially back here. Look at this. This is insane. Mozart being able to get all the way around and take out that engineer with the Mantis, doing a very good job of getting around those defenses and causing as much of a headache as he can for that expansion of Blast Chilled. Now, if we look at the scoreboard, we can see 13 mass per tick for Spatula Khan or Blast Chilled compared to the 21 for Mozart. So that tells us that Mozart's been a lot more successful at getting the engineers out to the expansion points, pulling in the mass extractors and being able to keep them alive. These raiding units just around here, and there goes another engineer doing a very large amount of damage to that early eco phase of Blast Chilled. It's going to be difficult for him to come back from that now that he is down by about 25% at the moment. Or he's just catching up, managing to get a couple more, but I don't know how long that's going to last because he's got more Mantis rolling in, actually just a single one, so that will die to those strikers and the mechs will stay alive, but unfortunately losing the engineer, so he's going to have to rely on another one, say this guy who is reclaiming, to come up and start building these. But he's having a real hard time keeping those mass extractors alive because Mozart is doing such a fantastic job of unit placement and raiding. Very nice to see. Obviously he is unrusting very quickly, and he is doing a very good job of blocking Blast Chilled from the lower half of the map. Alright, what's happening back at home? We've still got just those 3 factories there, but we do have 3 more land factories out the front for spam. So that's giving a total of 6. Do we have any more dotted around the place? No, it's just running those guys there. And then we've got a total of 5 land factories back at home here for Blast Chilled. So he's opting to make all of his units back at the initial starting point and send them out across the map where they need to go. Alright, looks like Blast Chilled is finally managing to get some semblance of control over the bottom part of the map here, and that is only really due to moving the ACU down. So that's a bit of a risk for him because he's going to have to use that ACU to block all of these units here. There's plenty of tankiness on the ACU to do that, but it does mean that he's giving up the center here, and we can see that Mozart moving in, throwing down a point defense just to make sure nothing comes into the area to give him any trouble. And that's going to be very difficult now that Mozart has got such good area control, and especially now that Blast Chilled is using that ACU as a defensive mechanism down the bottom here. It's a lot slower than the Mantis, so they can easily skirt around him and get into the base. They can hit and fade. They can cause all sorts of trouble, and the ACU's not going to be able to deal with it particularly well, unless, of course, they run headfirst into it, and that is not at all what Mozart was expecting. So he is going to plow straight on through, and he might even get some of those Mantis past, but we can see the cannon from that ACU managing to do a heck of a lot of damage, and I don't think any of that pack of Mantis are going to escape. That will mean that he is short on units down the bottom here, but so is Blast Chilled because he's just got that ACU left. And look at this. Cheeky engineers all in the mass extractors, even that Hydro there. taking this area for himself, and Mozart still enforcing fairly good control over the top. Not quite enough to be able to build those mixes, but he does have engineers. No, he did have engineers, but they have since evaporated. But he will be able to clear that area of units and take a reasonable amount of map control back. We've got a run-by trying to happen here for Blast Chilled. He's got half a dozen strikers. They're trying to get away from those Mantis. The Mantis just a little bit faster, though, and that is going to not, well, actually, Mozart giving up the chase, and he's going to allow them through, and that is because he's redirecting some of these units down from the base here. They're going to skirt around the top of that mountain. They're going to face those guys head on and stop them causing any more trouble. Blast Shield managing to actually get some superior numbers down the bottom, so he has diverted some of those units, but that's cost him in the center because it means he's wide open for attack, and we can see what is happening there. That is the Mantis from Mozart just coming on in and causing a whole lot of damage there, and we can see just how far forward that ACU. In fact, he's so without anything to do, he can sit back and build some more factories just for fun. So with those, he'll be able to do attack, move, reclaims with engineers, and he'll be able to produce spam right there on the front line. We haven't seen a lot in the way of the air game so far, but we've got a pretty good squad of interceptors there for Blast Chilled. It looks like it probably just outnumbers the interceptors here for Mozart, but neither of these guys really forcing an air engagement, and neither of them making use of bombers. Well, as I say that, there's a bomber from Blast Chilled that is, of course, going to start raining some hurt down on those Mantas. That's quite all right. We are going to see probably a response here from Mozart. No, we're going to see anything. No, he's not quite on the ball for the air game, so that bomber is going to continue doing some damage for at least the meantime. And we've got another squad from Blast Shield moving in on the ACU's position, but the ACU with all of the tankiness plus the support of those Mantis and the ability to drop behind those factories and to block with that and absorb a whole lot of hit points worth of damage, that is going to be absolutely impossible for Blast Chilled to be able to push through. But here we go. We have got an air engagement finally happening. Is Mozart going to focus on the bomber? No, he's not. He is correctly going to take out the interceptors first. So these guys neck and neck at the moment. It's going to come down to Micro, and it looks like Grey is maybe just getting slightly ahead. Yes, there we go. We are ending up with just a few more interceptors in the air for Mozart, and that will be an air win. He will be able to secure the skies. He will take out that bomber, and that'll be the end of the bombing run, although Blast Shield looks like he's only invested in a couple of bombers so far, and in fact Mozart forgetting to move these Mantis here, and the bombers having free reign to finish them off. So the bombers, a fairly costly investment for those, but they have paid off fairly well. And as long as Blast Shield doesn't continue to waste resources into bombers at this point, now that he's lost air control, I think he will be a slight net win in terms of resources expended for that particular endeavour. Alright, we've got some action down for the ACU for Blast Shield. He's run into a little line of Mantis. He is going to start picking those off. He really probably should come back within range of this Tech 1 point defense so that both the ACU and the PD are working away on those Mantis just to save a few hit points. It's not so dire. He's still over 10k, but it does mean that if he comes into ACU versus ACU combat, he will likely die at this point. Right, we have another PD here for Blast Chilled. He's going to try and stop all these Mantis, and it looks like there are not a lot in the way of artillery. Just a couple sitting there at the back, but that is plenty because they outrange the PD, and they will be able to do a lot of damage. And right now, I think if we look just at this area of the map, it does feel like Blast Shield has the superior numbers to repel this attack, but that's just giving Mozart ability to reform and get a whole lot more guys in the back here. How is the eco going? Wow, look at that. That's ridiculous. 33 to 17 on the scoreboard. So we can see just how much more build power that Mozart has access to in terms of spamming out those units, and Blast Shield is really going to be struggling. So we've got, what have we got? 6 now, 6 land factories. If they're all producing spam, that's going to consume more mass than he has. We can see he's actually running at a slight deficit. He still does have some in the tank, so not quite stalling just yet, but it won't be long given that he has not been able to maintain proper control over these mixers, while over here Mozart is doing a fantastic job of getting everything up and running. And even these mixers down here have been operating for quite some time and putting a lot of resource Mozart's way. Alright, we've got the main line attack coming in from Mozart. He's not doing a particularly great job of having his units condensed together for maximum firepower. He does actually look like he is slightly outnumbered. He will be waiting on that gun upgrade. He probably should have waited for that to be finished before he moved those units in and led with the ACU, because the extra range and damage that gun ACU upgrade gives would have been an absolutely fantastic thing to have. And he's also got a whole lot of energy storage. We can see he maxes out at 19k storage, so he can build up enough. He doesn't have a huge amount of overflow right now, so it's going to take some while to save up for an overcharge, but once he does have those in the tank, he will be able to do a lot of damage to those T1 units as they clump up and start taking hits. Even without the overcharge cannon, those blasts from the ACU are going to be absolutely brutal, and we can see Blast Chill just backing up there because he really doesn't have anything to be able to deal with that. The only counter that he probably could quickly pull out is a gun upgrade of his own, but how is he going from mass? Well, he still has some in the tank. He's very much in a deficit, just sitting at about half of what Mozart is currently producing, so he's not really going to have room to stop and get that upgrade on the ACU, but he's going to bring it up anyway and do what he can. He'll at least tank some damage with the 11,700 HP still on that ACU. He will lose very, very much in a 1v1 against the Cyber ACU with the gun upgrade, but he may just be able to pull it off if he can get rid of all of the spam around him, get his own tanks in and wrap up Mozart. But I don't like his chances given the stream of units that are coming up to back up Mozart, and as soon as the ACU is out of position, this bottom part of the map, that becomes very, very vulnerable, and we can see Mozart taking advantage of that now that he knows where the ACU is, and he's going to move in and start dismantling that. Did he bring some artillery with him? No, just the one. Well, one is going to be enough as long as he doesn't come within range of the tanks. Oh no, we can see a nice bit of micro there, just managing to keep it alive. So he will keep that Medusa going for now, but that's not going to be a good plan. Now the ACU for Blast Chill taking an absolute beating. Look at the power of that gun upgrade, and we can see that he's trying to get in there, wrap up the feet of Mozart, try and mess his pathfinding up, but at this point Blast Chill realizes that it is absolutely over and he has got nothing left that he can pull out of his bag. He's going to blow up in just a second, and we can just take a view of the map control that Mozart is exhibiting and look at the scoreboard. That is an absolute menace to Blast Chilled. Alright, so that is a win there for Mad Mozart, who is currently calling himself Stay Be Nice. Let's jump back into the draw and have a quick look at how the standings are sitting. Alright, so we've got Blast Chilled, Mad Mozart, of which Mozart just came out victorious. The next game we're going to watch is going to be Nexus versus Heaven. So let's get that game ready and we'll be right back. Alright, we have got the next match loaded up and ready to go. That is going to be, just double checking, Heaven versus Nexus. Alright, that's what we're going to take a look at. The game is loaded up. We are ready to rock. It will be on Hollow once again, but I promise this will be the last match on this map, and then we'll move into the next round to finish off, well, start moving towards the finish off of the tournament. All right, let's head into the game. In this match, we have got 2,300. I'm sure that has just popped up since one of the earlier matches, so Nexus managing to score a bit of a rating boost during the tournament. 2,300 in global rating. That is fantastic to see. and his opponent Heaven on 1800. All right, let's go and have a look at how these guys are going to get their initial builds underway. We've got Seraphim faction for Nexus, which is an interesting choice. I'm not sure what the purpose of that is going to be. We'd normally assume Zoes, but we don't need Hover on this map, and I'm not sure that they're going to get to T2, although if it's a couple of very evenly matched players, they certainly can get up to T2 and be making waves that way. In any case, he's going to get that first land factory down, and we can see he's got a total of 7 power gens, 7 power generators to run that air factory. So he will go a 7 power gen build, and then it looks like he is going to finish up with another land factory as well. So we're going to go 2 lands and an air factory for him, which is fairly standard according to what we just saw. But here we go. We've got a bit of a mix-up here from Heaven. He's going to get the first land factory down. Then he's going to throw all of the Tech 1 power gens and then move on to a second air factory. So that's going to give him air a heck of a lot earlier. So hopefully we're going to see a first bomber out from him, because if he doesn't make use of that, he's going to find himself well short in terms of land spam, because this is a very, very spammy map, and unless he can make sure he's got enough to counter whatever Nexus is going to throw across, that could be trouble. He is going to make a use of the early hunter out the front there, so that will cost him some time on getting engineers out, but he will hopefully be able to pick up engies. Now, has Nexus prepared for that at all? Oh, I don't think he has, because I'm not seeing anything in the way of combat units so far for Nexus that could come in, that could pick up the kill on an engineer or two, and that would be a very interesting play from the 1800 against Mr. 2300 of Nexus himself. Ooh, that's going to be very interesting. Let's just keep an eye on this guy, see what he can do. We can see the hunter stalking his prey. Oh no, he's missed it. He's completely missed it. He needs the mole to come up and give him some radar coverage. Oh no, he's lost his opportunity. The hunter, unfortunately, will soon become the hunted, and he will be able to pick up this engineer. So as he stalks his prey through the forest, he comes across an unwary engineer, and he starts laying down some fire on that guy. He's going to do some damage. The engineer has absolutely no reaction at all, and he will explode after a short while of damage from the hunter. So that is a very nice pickup there that will delay the hydro there for Nexus by quite some time, as he has to dispatch another engineer to get across the map. Well, only a short way across the map really, but still it is a delay, and it will hurt the eco for Nexus, who is sitting on a 20 power deficit at the moment compared to what Heaven has been able to put together. Alright, the Tham is going to come in and try and take out the hunter, but it is a little bit slower. The hunter just trying to get away. Oh no, it's not going to work. The hunter moving around. He's going to try and micro to kill the Tham, but I don't know if it's going to work. He'll have to be some epic micro there, like we saw in the last game, if he's going to pull that one off. I'm not sure if it is going to happen though. He is just going to try and get a bit more scouting happening and see what the lay of the land is. Alright, now did we miss a bomber there for Heaven? I'm not sure if we did. I'm thinking he probably thought that Nexus was going to go second air factory. And, well, that's all completed now anyway, and I don't see any use of bombers. So, unfortunately, Heaven, focusing on the air factory early on, hasn't been able to capitalize on it, and he may have a bit more intel as a result, but he certainly was not able to score any kills. And we can see that there's quite a difference now in the number of combat units that are rolling around the field. Heaven with very, very little in this bottom left corner. In fact, nothing at all to defend those engineers. The closest he has is a Mantis way back here. That's going to take some time to get into position. He still has this hunter running on. That is a Mantis. The hunter. Oh my goodness, that hunter is still going. That's caught another engineer. That is absolutely fantastic play from that hunter. He went all the way around the map with that Tham rolling behind him. He's come back to where he started, and he's managed to pick up a second engineer and deny that hydro. And we can see even Nexus finds that funny in the chat there, still not being able to complete that hydro. So we can see a massive deficit there, 360 to 180 power between these two, simply because Heaven is focused on the power. He's managed to build his hydro, and Nexus not managing to get any successful raids, but I think that is about to change, because we do have a bunch of units rolling this way. They're going to come on in, they're going to take out that engineer, they'll stop him from completing that mix, and that's actually leaving another mech's open as well, and then potentially this one in the middle here, though that is pretty close to the main stream of units coming out from Nexus's base. Oh, we finally saw a bomber out from Heaven. Unfortunately, it was very poorly placed, and he got picked up by an interceptor almost immediately, and he got shot down with very, very little effect. So Heaven not being able to make use of that, although he still has an opportunity because he can very, very easily take air control with that advantage in power that he's got. And if he can make sure he maintains that air control, he will force Nexus to mix in anti-air units, and he will be able to use bombers, at least for the short term. But interestingly enough, I don't think he's actually enjoying a superior number of interceptors right now. We can see the little clump down there for Nexus. He's got those 3 guys there, but then Heaven really not enjoying a large number of interceptors like you would expect after managing to deny so much power for so long. That is perhaps just a testament to the skill there for Nexus, being able to recover and still not lose air control wholeheartedly, even though it took him about 10 minutes to get his first hydro actually completed. And I say 10 minutes, of course, we're only 6 minutes into the game, but it somehow took 10 minutes to build the hydro because that's how FAF works. Okay, we've got the ACU for Nexus making a move towards the center. He's going to come in and try and scoop up some of that reclaim. There's not a lot of reclaim. It doesn't even show up on the control shift command, but there is a whole lot down there that can be picked up. It can offer a bit of an advantage, but I think the larger advantage it offers, rather than economy, is really just being able to dictate the flow of the game. If you hold the center, you can send units either around the top of the mountain, you can send them around the bottom of the mountain, and that really forces the other player to react to what you're doing, and you really get to call the shots if that is what you're doing. So it will be in these guys' advantage to be able to push the center. Right now, Heaven looking like he is a bit more likely to take the center because he's got this ACU in here. He's got 2 factories ready to start spamming. Interestingly, not getting adjacency on both of them. That's a very strange play, but whatever. He's going to have a few factories to produce spam and try and help out his ACU in the middle. He is, of course, going to be a couple of thousand short on HP compared to Nexus's ACU, but he will be able to make up for that in the large number of Mantis, and Nexus really not supported by a whole lot of units right now, and that is primarily because he sent them all on raiding missions. And look at this. This is really, really hard for Heaven to stop because there's just so many units in there. He's going to have to divert quite a large number away from his main stream going out to his ACU just to try and combat those. We can see he's picked up about 4 Mantis to go and respond to that, but I don't think he realizes the scale of it. There's at least half a dozen Thams in there, and there's also some Selenians which have got reasonable little cannons on them as well. So that's going to be very hard for him to deal with. In fact, he is, I think, accidentally scooped up those guys and sent them back towards the front where he thinks he needs them, but that's going to leave a big gaping hole in the economy there. We can see Heaven dropping down to 19 mass on the scoreboard to the 29 of Nexus, and that is because he is losing these mixes, and he's going to lose another one in just a moment as well. So he's lost the control of the entire north side of the map while he focuses on the bottom, but so far not actually managing to deny. He will be able to get in here and kill that mix, but Nexus having so many units forward and back of that position, while that is going to be able to easily come back, and as soon as Nexus can bring in engineers back into the fray, he will reclaim that eco. And wow, this is super cheeky. He's even building these mixes all the way forwards right up here, and I wouldn't be surprised if he sent the NGs on towards this. Yes, we can see there is even one going up there, so he will be stealing that right out from under the nose of Heaven, and this is not going Heaven's way at all. This is not looking great. He's got another bomber out. He's trying to use that air control, which, well, frankly, he just doesn't actually have, because where are his interceptors? There's only like 2 interceptors. That's not going to work given the nice number that Nexus has back here. He's got a dozen or so. They're sitting there ready to go, and those bombers are going to have to be very, very well placed for Heaven to be able to do any damage. And well, we can see Heaven just finding out that there's actually a whole lot more units there than he was bargaining for, so he's going to have to pull that out. So while he does still hold the center and has the ability to hit around the top or the bottom, right now there are so many units from Nexus, he really doesn't have enough to push either way. If he brings his ACU up to here, then he might be able to catch Nexus out and get him. If he has the element of surprise, then perhaps he might be able to pull out a bit of a win there if he can wrap up the legs of Nexus, ruin the pathfinding, and get all the Mantis hitting in on it. And it looks like that might be the plan. So Heaven's going to bring in his ACU. Does he have any upgrades? Well, he's still on 10 2k hit points, so he certainly does not have any more longevity upgraded into that ACU. Ooh, this is not going to be very pretty, and it looks like he's going to lose wholeheartedly down here because this is just scouts. Oh, that's absolutely impossible to fight with, so he's going to lose all of the control of that bottom half of the map as well. So that's going to leave him pretty much just in control of the central strip, including the center. And look at this, raiding parties already coming up, taking out these mixes, which should be really secure. Heaven finding that he just doesn't have the number of units that he needs to be able to respond to that, and he's now looking at a 2-to-1 deficit in terms of eco, so he's going to push his way in. He really needs to try and catch this ACU out if he has any chance of being able to win, but he's not quite able to catch it. And Nexus, very smart here, he's just backing up the ACU because he knows he has the game in the bag just as long as he can prevent that ACU from being caught out. Actually, he's going to move on in. That's a bit of a risky move, not terribly risky, but it does introduce a small percentage that Heaven may be able to pick up on and take a win away. But look at the number of FAMs ready to support that ACU. That is not going to go Heaven's favour at all, especially given how close they are to these spam factories. And look at this, just a continuous stream of units rolling on out from there. So even if Heaven did manage to beat him with what was there, that is not a great idea. Now he is completely surrounded. He's even getting hit by bombers, I think, in the mix as well. He is very, very quickly going down and losing his HP and just completely surrounded. At this point, throwing in the towel and not even bothering to move. And that is very, very one-sided. Nexus fantastically dismantling Heaven, taking most of the map and just forcing Heaven to respond. So even though Heaven had the center, he just didn't have the numbers of units to be able to force Nexus to respond to his attacks around the top or bottom and put pressure on that main base. Wow, okay, so that was just 11 minutes. Nexus demonstrating his absolute prowess and pushing his way through. All right, let's have a quick look back at the draw and see how the other matches went. All right, so we can see up there Blodier taking on Yudi, and Blodier managed to come away with the win. We saw Mad Mozart take out Bars Chilled, so that's going to be Blodier versus Mad Mozart in that match. And then down the bottom part of the pool, we've got Nexus and Heaven, where Nexus just managed to take out Heaven. And while they were doing that, Zlo versus Bully Dozer, well, that went in Zlo's favor. So let's get ourselves ready for the next match. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a minute. All right, thank you for sticking around. We have got the next game up and ready to go, and that is going to be Blodier taking on Mad Mozart. Well, both these guys have had name changes, of course. Of course they have. Why wouldn't they? So we're going to continue on. We are getting into the meaty end of the tournament now. We've only got the seriously good players left, and so we are expecting some seriously good Forged Alliance play. All right, let's jump straight into the game. There we go. And resume. So we have got, well, what map is this, you might ask? It is Point of Reach. Well, okay, that is interesting, and it's not my favorite map, but we'll see how these pros can manage it. Let's go and take a look at Obfuscation, who is, of course, Blodier. I don't know of any games that let you change your names like this, but okay, whatever. So, Obfuscation, he is rated 2,000 against Mad Mozart's 1,800. He's going to take the Cybran Nation, and he's going to go and throw down that first land factory. He's going to put down one power generator, his 4 core mixes, and then he's going to scoot across to this hydro and get that completed as fast as he possibly can. And we can see some interesting banter happening in the chat there, and Mad Mozart apparently has completely forgotten his build order, but he's not doing too badly. He's got his first land factory down. He's going to build that hydro, and it looks like he will be a-okay, but that's what happens when you get a bit rusty and you forget how to play the game. Alright, so he's just completing those 4 core mixes. He's already got his NGs in there, and we can see a couple more power gens before he gets that first air factory underway, and that's going to give some scouting ability and, more importantly, some transport ability, because these islands are absolute nightmare to get out to without transports. So we're going to see these guys trying to get transports laden with engineers across the map, and of course each other trying to shoot down those opposing transports with interceptors. So let's have a look at what Blodier's plans are. Well, he's actually not going to build that air factory just yet. He's going to throw down 4 more power gens. That is quite a generous amount of power, so that will give him a boost up in terms of his power production, and that could translate into a superior number of interceptors, although on a fairly large map like that, in the very early game, it's the very crucial placement rather than the numbers of interceptors that is really important. So it's so critical to be able to get behind those transports, to be able to spot them and take them out without losing your own. Okay, we've got Mozart actually coming straight out and starting on the naval factory very, very early. So this could be what he's talking about in terms of forgetting how to do his initial build order. So what he's done is he's completed that second air factory, and he's going to go and put his first naval factory down, but that's going to chew through quite a lot of power, and we can see he's actually had to stall that. He's paused it, and that is going to be because he has no mass. We can see the mass bar just hovering around nothing, and especially look at the power bar, minus 100 at the moment. That is going to be absolutely brutal unless he can get that under control, and he's going to be okay now because he's finished the transport. So we can see all of those engineers just going to pop on up into the transport. And which way is he going to go? He would normally go to the right, drop a couple of NGs across this island as he goes, and he might even make a play for this one to try and just give Obfuscation a bit of a pain to deal with. So we'll see what the plan is. Have we got the move orders down? Actually, it's going straight for this island across here. So we can see he's going to bring right across and drop those NGs in there. He's going to try and contest that, but I don't like his chances here because Obfuscation has already got the transport almost there. He's also brought an interceptor and a scout to be able to do that. So I think Mozart is probably going to be better off redirecting that transport at this point, unless he can somehow get past that interceptor. He may just be lucky there. The interceptor might actually chase. It could be the case. He's chasing down that scout. Down it goes, but that just actually gives a little bit of breathing space for the transport to get the NGs underway. So that's interesting. So we got both these guys landing on this one island. That's going to be a heck of a competition there. And this one so far, nothing happening. And I'm not sure if Obfuscation or Blodier is quite aware that that is happening just yet, and whoa, that was close. What is this transport doing? It is teasing those interceptors. He's just bouncing around, trying not to get shot, and I can't believe that Blodier did not shoot that thing out of the sky. That is unbelievable. Alright, both these guys managing to score all of the mixes on their home islands. Well, almost all of them. Mozart being a little bit too slow there. That will be the mass stall that we saw earlier on. And whoa, that is, look at the power bar for Blodier, absolutely on the breadline there, very, very finely balanced. He needs to get a couple more gens up and running. And what is this? A bomber out from Mozart, which is interesting because he just has a scout. Well, he's just scouted and still is scouting that island, and he does not see any units there to bomb. So this bomber must be either for defensive purposes or being planned to come up this way and try and block that island. That's an interesting play. All right, we do have a bit of combat happening here, but we've got just the one factory for each so far, and that's not going to work particularly well for Mozart, bringing them in one at a time. But somehow he actually manages to come away with... it's because they were hunters. That's what it was. So the hunter's going down very quickly to the Mantis there, And I don't know what Obfuscation's plan is going to be, because he's lost this engineer that was building that factory, so he's not going to end up with 2 factories anytime soon. That's actually a very serious win there for Mozart, taking out that engineer, because that means that there's just 1 factory. So if Obfuscation decides to build Engies out of that, he's not going to build any combat units, the Engies will die. And if he builds combat units, then he just can't get any more engineering power to build more, well, anything on the island. So that is interesting, and it looks like that is going to be a very difficult foothold for Mozart to be able to shift. Ooh, I don't like Obfuscation's chances there. So what he's done is he's headed for this island here, and this is what the bomber was for. Wow, that is why these guys are pros, because I didn't even think of that. That could be a very, very bad bomb. Whoa. If he managed to hit it on the first pass, he would have been able to take out all 6 engineers in one go, but it was just a little bit too slow to the party. And it means that, in fact, those engines have all spread out, and we can see that's going to take a lot longer for the bomber to dispatch those guys, and they may even be able to get this tracer turret completed. That is going well up into the green, and there we go. Now that will secure the area against the bomber. So unfortunately, just a couple of seconds of lapse there for Mozart has cost him that entire island. If he had managed to get that bomb down, that would have been a ridiculously fantastic play. Well, would have been worthy of some kind of MVP type thing, and well, he would have been home and away in terms of getting control of both of those mid-islands, and that would have made life very, very difficult for Blaudier. But as it stands, he has invested a lot into taking this island, and Blaudier has ended up getting this island for just the cost of a couple of engineers. So that is not going to slow Blaudier down too terribly much. But we can see on this scoreboard, he's actually, well, neck and neck. It was bumped up to 60-something there for a second. I think that must have been some reclaim. So these guys bouncing around, of course, with 0 power, it means that Obfuscation's mass income will vary slightly, but it looks like he is maybe lagging just a little bit as a result of the infrastructure that Mozart has managed to get onto this island so far. And now it is Blaudier's turn to make use of the bombers, since he has such a fantastic grip on air control right now, and we can see using those guys to absolutely demolish everything that Mozart has put on this island, and so many interceptors and bombers just floating around. That is going to be extremely difficult for Mozart to be able to recover from. He really needs to get enough of an air wing up to be able to clean the skies above the island and reclaim it. So this is going to push the, well, it's going to push the eco game further and further into Mozart's, well, disfavor, into the favor of Blaudier, because that pack of bombers absolutely brutal, but they are going to get set upon, and their defending interceptors are nowhere to be seen. Oh dear, that is a terrible loss there, a bit of a mistake in terms of air protection. But the bombs have done their work, and they have actually managed to clear out the entire island. We can see every single mech on there is completely void of a mass extractor. So we've got 61 to 47, not a huge advantage because Blaudier was slower getting to this island, but wow, clearing this guy out here, well, that is a very nice move indeed. Let's have a look at the Navy, because there's not been a lot of Navy so far. We've seen a couple of frigates produced by Mozart. What is he doing? Well, he's just floating around trying to cause as much trouble as he can. He's managed to get in here. He's killed the engineers supporting the factory, and wow, he has actually managed to kill the factory as well, which is a very nice move, because that means there is no more naval production for Blaudier. He is going to have to shift that to somewhere else, and it looks like that's going to be across this side of the map, because we've got a naval factory down there already. But there are actually quite a decent number of frigates floating around, and well, a nice drop there from Blaudier, putting an engineer on the island. If he can be quick enough, he will get in there and scoop up the NG. Managed to take that for himself and just increase that eco deficit. Still a few bombers hovering over this island, managing to keep it clear. We've got Mozart just waiting in the eaves to be able to try and drop those engineers. Look how impatient they are. They are ready to go, just waiting, but they're just not getting an opportunity. So he's going to drop them on the beach, and they can make their own way from there, because, wow, the skies are very crowded with purple interceptors. I would not like to be those engineers on that transport either. Oh, we've got another naval factory over this side, so Blaudier diversifying his naval investments, and he is going to be able to produce some things out the sides of the map, but I'm not sure what he's going to do with that, because he's already got a whole lot of frigates of course, floating around, causing trouble. They can pick off anything near the beach that comes along, so that'll be the plan for those, just trying to harass, trying to do as much damage as they can, and I think he probably wants to try and shut down the naval production, but because Bloodier sneakily built those factories out the side, well, that is not going to be in his favour for long. And with the extra mass that Bloodier's got, it's just 10 mass per tick at the moment, but still, that is enough to make a very serious difference in the naval game at this early stage in the game, because Navy is just so mass dependent, and it means that he just needs to, well, Mozart needs to do a lot of work to catch up, and slowly trying to do this. This is a very, very good idea here. He's going to put down a factory on the island, and he's going to build a whole lot of mobile anti-air. So those Sky Slammers, they're going to roll on across the map, trying to take care of everything above that island. And whoa, here we go. This is Bloodier's play, because he realizes he is short on Navy, so he's going to go straight for tech to air. We can see this factory in the middle here, which has been upgraded, and he's going to throw those torpedo bombers up into the sky. They're going to zoom around, and they're going to take out those frigates. The AA on the Cybran frigates is reasonably good, but it's not going to stand a chance against Tech 2 torpedo bombers. Not at all, although Mozart still has a pretty definite number of interceptors there. Bloodier is still enjoying pretty good air control, except that he's probably going to lose all of these, because they seem to be on some kind of patrol order, and they are going to get hammered by the AA that is just heading into the center of that island. Still a 10 mass or 5 T1 mechs deficit for Mozart. He doesn't need to catch it up, so he'll be able to more than make that up once he reclaims that island. And we can see Bloodier finally moving those interceptors away after the bomber. I think it must have been shot down, so he's going to bring those guys away, and that's going to give Mozart control. Hopefully, for Bloodier's sake, he's managed to do enough damage to delay Mozart, but Mozart actually managed to save up a really good squad of interceptors there. If that comes into contact with Bloodier's Air Force, that is actually going to be a net win for Mozart, as long as he doesn't do anything stupid, which will be very interesting given that Bloodier has invested in T2 air, so he's got those torpedo bombers, which he's going to rely on for that deficit of Navy, but wow, he's going to run into trouble if he finds that he has completely lost air control. So Bloodier needs to keep that pressure up with those interceptors, make sure he maintains that air superiority, otherwise he's going to find himself in big trouble. Okay, a bit of a lull in action while these guys just try and position themselves. We've got a few frigates fighting on. We've got a decent-sized naval shipyard going down in the middle of the map there for Mozart, so he's going to plan on pushing a lot of Navy out soon. And what is this? Bloodier is trying to make more use of the air units to go and try and clean out some of these outlying mechs, as they are very hard to defend unless you've got interceptors all over the air. So that gunship is going to be able to roll on and do a whole lot of damage, take out. There's even a radar unit, an engineering unit, and he will be able to knock just a couple of small pegs off Mozart's mass income, which has, well, just jumped up to 118. Wow, that is a serious jump now that he's managed to reclaim control of this island, and he's probably got a whole lot of upgrades back at home as well. That's giving him a very serious amount of mass that he's able to compete with Bloodier on. Bloodier, though, jumping up to 132. Was that a stall before? Why was he so low? I'm not quite sure, but he's sitting on 134 right now, according to the scoreboard, which is managing to just keep a little bit ahead of where Mozart is sitting. The torpedo bombers just continuing to harass these naval units. The Navy just managing to come out with a slight win there for Mozart, but with the harassment from those bombers, he really can't make any serious moves in terms of the Navy game. What he might have to do is shift up to T2 Navy if he has the mass, and get some cruisers out to be able to wipe the skies clean of all of those pesky torpedo bombers. But still, there's a critical mass of torpedo bombers which he will not be able to get through without being able to win air control first. And look at this. This is a prime opportunity for Bloodier, but he's not taking it. If he'd gotten in behind those interceptors, well, he would have been able to completely eradicate them, but as it stands, that is not going to happen. So we've still got a air engagement outstanding. We are waiting on it. When is that going to happen? Well, there goes a torpedo bomber down to the pack there not good at all for Blodier. He really should force that air engagement right now, and not by sending in interceptors one at a time. He needs to just get in there and clear out the entire lot. He's got more than enough numbers to do it. He just needs to make it happen, but he's probably busy elsewhere with the ridiculous number of APM that's required to manage such a complicated game on a silly map like this with so many islands and so much going on. Are we seeing any shift up to T2 Navy? It doesn't look like we are. All of these factories are sitting there building frigates. They're just trying to do as much as they can to stem the immediate danger. Are we seeing Tech 2? Well, this is a very supported factory here, so that does look like it's going to happen. So Blodier is going to end up with destroyers, I would say, fairly soon, and those things are going to absolutely wipe the floor, or wipe the ocean floor, with the frigates there for Mozart. Well, we've actually got a very supportive factory over here. This is a large number of engineers. I wouldn't be surprised if this was about to go T2 as well. Is that the case? Does Mozart know that Blodier is on the upgrade path? Oh, I'm not sure if he does. He's got the immediate advantage in terms of actual frigate numbers, but that's not going to last if he loses in tech. Alright, and Blodier has managed to come in and force that air engagement. He's come away very victorious, as you would expect with just a silly number of interceptors like that. So he is going to come away with the air win and secure the skies for those torpedo bombers. But the torpedo bombers still, I mean, they've got a lot of shots coming up from the frigates that they have to contend with. They don't have a lot of work to do at the moment. Most of what Blodier needs to do is either damaging the eco over here, which has got a reasonable amount of AA, because look at this, there's just static AA all over the island because of Mozart's paranoia about air units, but that's completely fine. Or he needs to try and do some damage to these naval facilities, but he just can't get in there at the moment because there's so many frigates. He's going to try and attack from the back, but he's only got the 4 frigates. They're going to get absolutely mown down by all of these ones here from Mozart. They're going to absolutely win that engagement. So in terms of actual map control, it is still sitting just in Blodier's favour, simply because he's got these islands as well. He's got both of the islands on mirror sides of the map. Still though, Mozart really does have a decent number of frigates that he could use to push out and do some damage. If he was to bring them around to the left here, he could take out these frigates that are coming in one by one. He could take them out very quickly. He could take out these outlying mixes and perhaps even get in to the factories and do some damage there. There is a lot of assistance on that factory there producing frigates, so Blodier definitely trying to regain some composure in the naval game and get a good number of frigates out to combat what Mozart currently has. But we've got now, finally, on the field, a Sealam-class destroyer. He's rolling down for Blodier there. He is going to come into contact with these frigates, but, well, he really needs a lot more support than he currently has, because there's just a couple of frigates, and they're going to get eaten up by Mozart before the destroyer even gets there by the looks of things. But once it does, Mozart, surely he's aware, there we go, he is aware that he has been outclassed in the tech game, so he's quickly done a T2 upgrade on that factory so that he's got his own Tech 2 Navy, and so far he's actually just going with a cruiser, so that's going to be to try and combat those torpedo bombers which have been harassing him for many minutes now. So he's going to try and get anti-air with it, but the problem with that is as soon as he comes within range of that Salem class, well, it is going to go down very quickly because it is not a direct combat unit at all. And Blodier wants to try and micro the Salem. He does not want to leave it to get spammed by those frigates, but it looks like that is exactly what's going to happen. He's now finally just bringing it back, but it's going to come within range of the frigates. He does need to just keep it on moving so he can use the extra range. And at this point, he's got the torpedo bombers, he's got a massive number of frigates overrunning this position, and he's got the T2 coming down from the north. So that leaves only this this right-hand side of the map really for Mozart. He's got a single destroyer out. That's not going to be enough because he's going to lose all of this investment, and he's going to lose all of these frigates in the middle. If he could somehow save these, join up with the destroyer and the cruiser, he might be able to come away with a net win, although it's looking increasingly unlikely given the number of shots being fired on in the torpedoes as well. That is a serious amount of damage to those frigates, and they're just huddling in the center. They know they're on death ground, and I'm not sure that they're going to fight extra hard. And what is this? This is super cheeky. A drop here from Blodier. He's going to put a whole lot of Medusas in. And actually, no, there is a Wagner in there as well. Those Medusas really need to target yes, the T1PD, which they do. And that's going to go down, 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 and that's going to leave all of those T2 mixers open to those Medusas. That's going to be very, very damaging to Mozart's economy. He is sitting on, well, it says 174. It looked like it just dropped down a whole bunch. Mozart also stalling on power and unable to keep his mass flowing, but look at all of these T2 mixers getting damaged and destroyed. And where is the response from Mozart? Well, all he's got is a T1 PD, and we know how effective that is against Medusas. That is exactly 0 effective against Medusas unless there is a mistake from Blodder. So that's not looking good for Mozart at all now that things are on his home island. I think we can safely say that Blodder has managed to wrap this one up and get Mozart just too tangled up, and I'm sure he'll be blaming that initial build order. It did cost him a bit to start with because he did throw down that first naval factory out here before he could afford it, and unfortunately that did cause him to stall, and it could have just been the gap that caused him to lose. But he did do a fantastic job of securing this island, which he normally wouldn't have under the current meta, but still Blodder managed to come back from that and absolutely showing us his 2,000 rating by managing to get all up in Mozart's business. And now Mozart is going to find himself with units just off the shore, and they don't quite have the range because there's only frigates in there, but as soon as the destroyers come down, well, they've got extra range, and then just for good measure they can sprout legs and roll up onto the beach as well. Well, not so much roll, more crawl, but they can get up onto there and cause a whole lot of damage. So at this point I wouldn't be surprised if Mozart was to call GG, because he is just outmaneuvered by all of these units from Blodder. He's going to try and make one last desperate attempt, but he's got too many cruisers in the mix. He does have a mermaid as well to give him some radar stealth coverage, but that's just not going to be enough. He's only got, well, there was a couple of destroyers in there. They did not last at all. Those cruisers going down very, very quickly to the destroyers from Blodder. So this is completely wrapped up, and I'm not quite sure what Mozart's plan is here. He could potentially try to get a snipe, although I don't know he could even get it around. It would have to be torpedo bombers. He would have to know where the ACU is, and he would have to somehow get them past the air net that Blodder has up. Well, it's not so much of an air net, it's more of a few random units flying around, but you get the idea. So not much of an opportunity here, but just for good measure, Blodder is going to put stealth on that ACU. Let's just speed it up because there is not a heck of a lot left to play out. We're just going to wait for Blodder to finish off the remaining forces. I think once Mozart realizes he has lost these naval yards because there is just so much fire incoming, that is going to be the end of it. So Blodder just upgrading that ACU because he's got more mass and energy than he knows what to do with, so making sure that there is a absolutely minimal chance for a snipe, just playing it nice and safe there, and well, even going for T3 just to make sure that he doesn't somehow lose by just a few hundred hit points. I'm not sure how that would happen at this point, but you never know. Mozart has been around for a long time. He does have a whole lot of good strategies rattling around in that head of his, so it's possible that he could pull something out. It's just extremely unlikely at this point. Did I see some T2 artillery fire? Oh my goodness, we've got a row of 4 Gunthers. Oh, I can't believe it. He's got 4 Gunthers sitting there on the beach ready to fire away at any navy that's coming up. Those things will be able to do a fair amount of damage. Oh, but the turn rate on those turrets is just so slow. It would take an absolute age for them to retarget any navy, and then a bit of micro from Blodder would absolutely defeat those. But Mozart, I think, is just completely out of options. This game really dragging on now. We're up to the 24-minute mark, and Mozart just really trying to hang on. Absolutely abysmal hold of his island there. He's lost all of those outlying mixers. His main base, I think, has come under a little bit of destroyer fire, but not able to hold particularly well. More destroyers coming on in. He's managing to draw it out for quite some time. There's a couple of destroyers down the bottom here just ripping into those naval yards, but there are actually some barracudas. So that's an interesting play there for Mozart. Very, very defensive at this point. But what else is he going to do? He's got torpedo bombers, he's got submarines, and he's actually managed to get a really good number of interceptors out, and that's going to suddenly put an end to Blodier's air superiority, and that potentially could open the doorway to that snipe, and that'll be what Mozart is thinking. But the only reason that that has been allowed to happen is that Blodier has been busy on a T3 air upgrade. We can see a strat bomber coming on into this island now. He's dropped one, and oh my god, that is absolutely fantastic. Look at the area of effect on that Siren strategic bomber, taking out all 4 of those T2 mexes in one pass. That is absolutely brutal. He's got some ASF as well out just for good measure, and boom, exactly the same move again on those 4 core mexes. So this is really just adding insult to injury now. That means Mozart is down to 107, 102. Wow, not a lot of mass for this point in the game. There are still a lot of torpedo bombers harassing his naval units down here. It does mean that the few factories here probably will stay alive for a little bit longer, and there's still the T2 headquarters there as well. But oh, this is just not going Mozart's way. There is another strategic bomber out. Did he manage to lose that one? I think he actually did manage to get it caught out, but there is another one ready to go, so that is fine. Everything is fine, says Blodier, but he does need to try and get these air units under control. Does he have enough ASF to be able to deal with it? Well, he's only got half a dozen or so he's not really concerned about the interceptors floating overhead. It's not a big problem right now. He's just going to come on in and do a lot more damage. Is this going to be another one? Ah, that is a very, very insulting bomb to the face. He's just cruised right on down the map and said hello to Mozart's ACU with a strategic strike. Alright, looks like Mozart is definitely still trying to push the air game here. He's actually being able to do a pretty good job of smacking down some of that Navy, but now a good number of ASF roll in. Look how fast those things are. They're going to come in and they're going to absolutely make mincemeat of all of the air units that Mozart has. There's more than enough there to finish it off, and that is a very, very big discrepancy in firepower between the ASF and the T1 interceptors. But this is a little bit worrying for Blodier. There are a lot of submarines over here. Those guys can actually do a bit of damage that is going to cause Blodier to not want to be in the water, and we can see he is actually sitting up there on the beach under the coverage of a few shields just to make sure there is no snipe. Of course, a Corsair snipe could potentially get in there now, especially with all of the units tied up across the side of the islands here, just fighting those torpedo bombers. It could be, but Blodier is probably well aware because he's got those scouts overhead, but it could be a diversion for a Corsair snipe, and he could be going to bring those in. If I was playing this, I would certainly be worried about that, but Blodier, he knows how to play this game. He's played it once or twice before, and he is very, very adept at making sure that ACU stays alive. So even though he's got quite a bit of stuff to deal here with Mozart, he's managed to take the rest of the map, and we're going to have to speed this up even more because this is just dragging out, dragging. We've got fire coming down on the main base. There we can see those Salems have sprouted legs, and even a cheeky engineer trying to reclaim the destroyer. And there we go, finally being able to be finished off by those units, and that is going to end Mad Mozart's run through the top bracket. He will, of course, jump down to the bottom bracket where potentially he'll be able to come back and have another go at whoever wins this top part of the tournament. But we'll see how that goes. Alright, so that was Blodier taking on Mad Mozart. So we can see that Blodier taking the win, and it looks like we're going to now have to shift down to Nexus versus Zlo. Now that's going to be on the exact same map. Hopefully we'll see some different tactics. And well, actually, Zlo, he is very well known for his crazy antics, his commander drops, his silly things like that. So we might even see something like that. Alright, let's get the next game up and running, and we'll be right back. All right, and the game is up and running. There we go. Okie dokie. We have got Nexus taking on Zlo on Point of Reach. Wow, this is version 4, so we've got the exact same map, the exact same silliness as we saw in that last round. Whoa, we've got some different antics. Let's go and check out Zlo's initial build order. He's going to take UEF, which is an interesting choice for a predominantly water-based map because the T2 Navy, well, it's reasonably tanky, but it just doesn't have the range and torpedo damage to be able to do a whole lot against Cybran. So, well, why would I say Cybran? It's the normal opponent, but it looks like Nexus is actually going to be Seraphim, but we'll have a look at him in a second. So we're going to get the 4 core mass extractors, and interestingly, he's going to skip going for that first power gen to give him a boost in power just in the first part of the build order. Instead, he's going to come down here, he's going to scoop up a couple of those trees, and hopefully that's going to give him what he needs to get that hydro finished. The hydro takes 1,000 power, and he's still sitting on just over 1,000. So as long as he doesn't waste too much power before then, he will be able to get it completed. Alright, let's have a look at Nexus, who has gone for Seraphim. He's put that first land factory down. We can see he has gone for 1 extra power gen to give that extra 20 power during the course of the Hydro build. 2 engineers and the ACU working away on the Hydro. He's going to start sending the engineers across the island to take those mixes and try and start the expansion. Both these guys sitting on 9 mass per tick because they have got the 1 from the ACU and then the 8 from having 4 T1 mixes. Alright, looks like we've got a change in plans here. We're not going to use a transport to get out to that island. It looks like Nexus is going to be content with getting this engineer to scoot out across the bay and across to the next island. That's a very daunting prospect. It's going to take a little bit longer to get him out there and get all those mixes built, but it is not going to be susceptible to the interceptor taking out a transport. Alright, let's talk about that because we've got a transport underway here for Zlo. It is going to be a decent drain on his resources. He's actually really bottoming out on power as he tries to get that thing built. Ooh, just very, very finely balanced, sometimes dropping into the red. Not so great for Zlo, but if he can get that finished, it will give him a bit of a breathing space to get his power situation under control, especially as the ACU continues building those power generators. He's just up to 6 now as that one finishes, so he's only running on 6 plus the hydro there, so still fairly light. And what's this, another air factory? Okay, so he's going to go reasonably hard on the air game. He's going to push out as many interceptors as he can, I would suspect, to try and take air control, make sure he can shoot down all of those pesky transports that Nexus is going to be firing around the map. And, well, going around the map, we've got a scout, so that is going to give eyes on, and he's actually going to spot the transport there. Yes, he absolutely will get eyes on the transport, so he knows exactly what Zlo's doing. It does get shot down, but not before it gives him a pretty good inkling of where to go, so we can probably see these interceptors following in. Yes, they did manage to get a lock on that transport. Unfortunately, this interceptor getting tangled up on that cliff edge, needing to rise up. But 2 inties there for Nexus. Oh, I don't like the chances of Zlo's transport staying alive. That is going to, well, it's probably going to make landfall. Actually, interestingly, he's going to drop just a single NG there, and now we've got a problem. He is going to get pounced upon by that interceptor. He's losing HP reasonably quickly. Ouch, he's going to have to drop those engineers, so that's going to be the end of that transport. He's not going to be able to get away without being shot down now, so that's a, oh, is he seriously? That is a bit of a mistake there from Nexus. As long as he can catch that, run it down, and make sure he finishes it off. There we go. I think he's managed to complete the task. All right. Fortunately, we've got a top player not making a silly rookie mistake like letting the transport get away, so he's managed to destroy that investment from Zlo, and Zlo having to just stop and see what he can do with these engines. He's going to start with a hydro, and then he's going to move across, taking the rest of those mixes, but that's going to be a very serious dampener on Zlo's expansion plans, because now we can see Nexus getting his engineers out here. He's going to grab all those mixes. That's going to give him a really good leg up in terms of economy. But what is this island doing? Well, absolutely nothing, because Zlo did not send his transport here. He went for the other way. Nexus caught it. He ran it down. And well, that is how it goes for Zlo. So he needs to build another transport, and that is there at the moment. How is it going for his eco though? Wow, that is really punishing his economy right now. He is very much struggling to be able to push that transport out as well as do everything else that he needs. And what is this? This is a ridiculously cheeky move. We've got a FAM that was dropped by a transport. It did cost the entire transport. It goes down, but he is going to make landfall with this one FAM. If you can get in here and do some damage to the engineers, well, maybe that's worthwhile. I'm not sure if it's going to have much of an effect because there's already a land factory down here. So that is going to make it very, very easy for Zlo to recover on that island. Even if he was to lose all of the engineers, all he needs to do is produce a couple of tanks to clean up, and then he can get back to engineers and continue taking all of the island. We've got a big differential in interceptor numbers here. We've got a good pack from Zlo chasing down these 3 interceptors here. I don't know that Zlo really wants to follow them all the way back in. He would run the risk of losing some of them and being outnumbered, but he is going to divert those guys, bring them back, probably just consolidate his numbers and start to try and think about maintaining air control over the rest of it, especially over this side where Nexus has got a scout, so he's going to know exactly when Zlo makes landfall with this next transport that he's finally gotten around to building. And while that is costing him at the moment 10 mass per tick in a deficit, and that is only going to get bigger as these engineers take the rest of this island, secure those mexes, and I wouldn't be surprised if... No, I thought for a second, I couldn't see the transport, I thought for a second that he had lost it to a wayward interceptor. Whoa, but luckily for Zlo, that was not the case. There is enough air support on hand to be able to do it. So Zlo dropping an NG on this side of the island, that's going to make it a lot faster to take the rest of it and be able to catch up in that eco. He's now 6 mass extractors behind. He's going to start with a land factory so that he can secure the island. Is there a bomber coming in? That would be extremely unfortunate for Zlo if that was to occur, but it looks like there is nothing just in the works at the moment. Although, what is this? There is a transport coming across from Nexus. I'm sure that was destined for this island, but now he's managed to see what is actually happening. I think he probably wants to think twice about doing that. He's just going to go and drop a couple of NGs around and make use of the transport that he had already loaded up. Alright, Zlo trying to catch Nexus out over this way. He's going to try and scoop up that NG. Is he going to see it? Are we going to see a reclaim battle? Come on, guys. Who's got the best micro? Zlo does. Zlo gets the micro underway, the reclaim underway. Oh, but he needs to chase it down. It looks like Nexus didn't actually spot what was happening, and he let it get away. But, whoa, this is a big transport loaded with engineers, and that, unfortunately for Nexus, flies straight into a cloud of interceptors and is shot down very, very quickly. That's going to be a costly exercise for Nexus. He really needed to drop those a little earlier, or at least have some more scouts overhead so he'd see exactly how much air control Zlo was running. Alright, Zlo managing to go and capture that mech over there. He's going to roll back this way, and hopefully this is... Oh no, I think Zlo has just given some orders, and that is going to not be a reclaim. Oh, all Zlo needs to do is reclaim that engineer, and it will be a win for him. What on earth? This is a crazy plan. He's going to leave that in. Okay, as I speak, he spots what's going on. He reclaims the NG, and he's probably going to go back to building naval factories. So that's a very sneaky build over there. Very interesting play from Zlo, trying to outmaneuver and have a secret naval base that he's trying to hide from Nexus. He's making good use of T1 bombers over this island to clear out all of the units and the expansion that's happening, and that is forcing Nexus to push out T1 AAs. That's going to cost Nexus some resources in trying to clear that area. But what is this? Of course, how could we expect anything else? We have got Zooey spam coming from this island, and this will be the entirely sole reason that Nexus chose to go Seraphim. He wanted to do Zooey spam from island to island, and we can see those guys coming on in and just causing trouble. Now, the Zooeys will lose in one-on-one combat, or even 5-on-1 combat, to well-microed strikers there from Zlo. But the thing is that Nexus, well, he can just leave a stream of units heading across the map. They can just continue. They'll initially get shot down as Zlo has the APM to micro against them. But as soon as Zlo slips up and doesn't have the necessary APM to continue microing those, then those Zoes will just roll on by, dropping shots and just making an absolute meal of it. Alright, the bombers have actually switched up to the main island here by the looks of it. Zlo just trying to get his air into the right position to be able to take out this little cluster that Nexus has, and it's actually looking very good for Zlo at this point. He has got a lot of interceptors up. He's got easy air control if he forces that engagement. How is he going for naval numbers? Well, actually very poor. He's got a decent number of factories, but he only has a few frigates out. 1, 2, 3 across the left side of the map, and then just a single frigate on the right side of the map. That's not a lot of frigates at all. And we can see Nexus, well, he's got a bit of a concentration of naval yards in the middle here, and he's pumping out frigates to the center. So I feel like he might be able to come away with a net win in the early naval game just by consolidating those frigates, having a couple of them in the same place and going and taking out one by one what Zlo has dotted around the map. But it looks like at the moment he's concentrating most of his resources on this Zoe spam. Those guys are just coming in, causing all sorts of trouble, especially against static targets, because the Zoe rounds do not usually miss. And they will take some damage from that frigate, but he needs to keep moving, because now that he has stopped, well, look at the Zoe fire coming in. Look how much damage each one of those rounds happens, and that's what we're talking about when you don't have enough APM to keep your units moving against a stream of T1 artillery. As soon as they stand still for a bit, they start getting fire on their heads, and it is no good at all for the whole staying alive thing. Alright, we have got a T2 shift up from Zlo. He's got torpedo bombers, so he's going to try and make use of the air superiority. But wow, Nexus actually managing to get a really good flock of interceptors. They are all sitting there right where the torpedo bomber was trying to be. So of course it goes down in a ball of flame. But I think Zlo could probably still take away the air control if he forced an engagement. But look at the amount of focus that Nexus is giving the air game. He is really pushing it hard. So he is going to very quickly overtake Zlo and get that air control back. So that is clearly a priority. And how are we looking for power? Well, Zlo on 2.1k and Nexus just clocking over 2k, so not a great differential there. So Zlo is obviously burning the rest of the power. We can see not much overflow for Nexus there, just 27, 129. That is a shadow compared to the 500 mass or 500 energy that Zlo is burning every second. So that is going to be where all of that power is going, and Zlo probably wants to be a bit less wasteful and step up the air production as well, just to make better use of all of that. Alright, frigate's still trying to take out these Zoes. There's T1 bombers in there as well, but they are getting shot down because, wow, there is flak. Ayashava. I don't often say that name, but they are rolling out because they are hover units as well, and that's going to be a big problem for the bombers trying to deal with that Zoe spam. And yeah, see, this is the big difference here. Nexus really has the ability to set and forget. He can just put these factories on Zoe spam, set a rally point on the other side of the island, and just sit there and let it go. It will cost him a bit in wasted resources as the first ones are microed into oblivion by Zlo. But after that, once Zlo is focusing on other areas, because there's a lot of other areas that Zlo really has to focus on, he's got to try and win the air game. He's been trying to get torpedo bombers to counter the Navy. He's got T1 bombers to try and clear the land and the islands for these guys. That is a lot that he is dealing with, and as soon as he doesn't have what he doesn't have the focus to keep this going, then wow, he's going to start losing ground on the island. We can see already a few mechs is going down. Oh, that is not a great sign. So that is managing to make some headway. There are frigates in the bay. They are heading off as many Zoes as they can. We've got an air engagement happening. How is this going to look? They are roughly even numbers. I think Zlo just with a slightly superior numbers in the immediate vicinity. Some of them look like they are out of fuel though, but he will come away with a overall win on that, and that's going to give him a bit more leeway to use those T2 torpedo bombers that he was trying to spam. I'm not sure if he's got any left. I'm just having a look around the map, but what? Oh, what? He is using a T2 transport to move that ACU. Where is he going with that? Oh, this is a bit of a ridiculous move. I thought we might see a comm drop from Zlo, but I would not think that he's going to do this. Wow, where is the ACU for Nexus? Is the ACU on this island? Yes, it is. He is sitting over here after completing that mix. So what is going to be the game plan? This is risky because we've got a lot of Navy around here. Not that there's any torpedoes on those frigates, but still, not a lot of support for Zlo's ACU. In fact, how is he going to support that? You never want to drop your commander all the way behind enemy lines like that if you don't have either a ridiculous amount of build power and a whole lot of resources for him to spam up a firebase, or a whole lot of support. Now, I don't know if Nexus has seen what is happening. He hasn't so far moved that ACU. He's just sitting there building some AA to try and get rid of those pesky bombers. But what is he going to do? Is that T2 PD? That is exactly what it is. So Zlo is going with a T2 point defense creep, but does he have the air defense capability to keep that ACU against these gunships? Because I did see a couple of gunships. There's at least one hovering over here, so he will need some kind of AA, perhaps some shielding, just to try and keep that ACU alive all the way up here. I think he's feeling like he is probably losing in overall map control to what Nexus is doing, especially after losing some of the mixes on this island, but he's not actually doing that badly, except, whoa, I'm just looking at the scoreboard, which I haven't looked at for a few seconds, and it was showing 79 mass for Zlo, which is almost half of what Nexus has got. That is absolutely insane. Has Nexus really been doing that good a job of suppressing the eco and managing to get his own T2 mixes? And it looks like that is the case. This entire island has got T2 mixes. That is a huge deficit, and Zlo has probably spotted that and knows that he needs to do something drastic to try and even it up. So he's going to come up on the island. He's knocked out a few mixes there. There's not a lot of combat units that he can really have to contend with. There are torpedo bombers, so if he jumps back into the water, that could be a problem. If he stays on the land and he has air support against gunships, I think he can probably keep himself alive for a little while. He clearly has T2 on board because he was throwing down these point defense here, which are currently shooting the cliff, so that's not the most effective use ever, but he does have the ability to throw a shield down, get some definitely useful T2 static flak. So he could definitely sort of wall himself in and create a firebase that Nexus would have trouble moving. But the difficulty here for him, and what is this? Look at this, there's just a whole stream of T1 bombers. Does he have anything to deal with that? There are so many purple interceptors there now, and it looks like Zlo has been focusing on torpedo bombers and gunships a little too much. So while they will be useful for hurting the Navy, they're going to go down very quickly to this huge cloud of interceptors that Nexus has accumulated. And how many inties has Zlo got? Well, he's still got a decent number, but it's just not enough when you compare it to what Nexus now has. So Zlo throwing down that static flak, that is a very nice move. We're not going to see a shield from him. It looks like he is going to try and go back into the water. But what is this? We have got gunships and bombers coming in. They are making short work of that flak. Wow, it's taking out the bombers. It's actually focusing on the bombers and not the gunships. So there are now 3, 4, 5 gunships. Well, this is starting to be a bit of a problem for Zlo. And oh, what is this? The immediate vicinity has absolutely become crowded with frigates and destroyers. No, we're not up to T2 yet, so it's just purely frigates. But Zlo is going to take a massive amount of damage just to get to the water. He's continuing to get hit by the ACU, the gunships, as he comes near the beach. He's got all of that frigate fire, and that is, wow, absolutely destroying that ACU. And whoa, he gets into the water. He just ducks underneath the waves with, just a couple of hit points left. And Zlo desperately trying to keep air control here. He's got all of his interceptors in, doing a lot of work, because what's going to end the game now is going to be any torpedo bombers that Nexus has. He did have a couple. There is one over here. There is still a decent number of green interceptors in there that might be able to stop a torpedo bomber before it can drop its payload, but it looks like, what is this? We've got this T2 factory with a massive amount of assistance, and it is doing nothing but spamming torpedo bombers, so even a few getting through is easily enough to take out that ACU. So unfortunately, the radical tactics there for Zlo not paying off, and his ACU becomes trapped and is destroyed. Wow, okay, well, I'm very glad to see a nice ACU drop. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that well for Zlo. So let's bring that draw back up. We've just seen Nexus taking on Zlo with a win there for Nexus, and that brings us to our very tippy top end of the competition. We have Blaudier taking on Nexus, so the winner of this will be the winner of the top bracket. But of course, being double elimination, somebody from the bottom bracket is going to be able to come back from winning that and challenge our winner up here. So that's why there's potentially a couple more matches still to go. Wow, okay, let us get our next match ready to go, which is going to be Blaudier versus Nexus, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we have got Obfuscation, which is the correct player, taking on Nexus, who is also the correct player. So we are good to go. Let's go and have a look at what Obfuscation is going to do. He's taking the Cybran Nation. He's going to get that first land factory down. He is going to secure a whole lot of Tech 1 power gens and then get that air factory underway, which is absolutely crucial to get transports to move your units across to these other islands. So there's a whole lot of mass extractors available, and it's going to be a race to see who can secure those. Now we've got his opponent, Nexus, rated 2300 in Global Forge Alliance Forever. He is going to take the Seraphim faction. We can see a whole lot of Tech 1 power gens, not quite as many as Obfuscation. Ooh, excuse me, Obfuscation had planned. But he is going to get that second air factory down as well, so that he can build his transports to get all the things done that he needs to do. So we can see a nice big queue of build orders going down for this engineer, including reclaim, so he will be able to fill that mass bar back up with all of the ice, because somehow this ice can be reclaimed into mass, but the rest of the ice can't, because that's just how the game works. And then he's going to scoot across the island here, and we can see just how many more big chunks of mass and mass extractors are available for grabs. But of course, everything being fair, Blaudier has the exact same thing available as well, and we can see the reclaim and build orders for him just scooting across there, and that will help him refill his mass bar, which is just about empty. Looking at the scoreboard, he is just about to stall when he pulls in the next block of mass. So I'm not sure whether that is just lucky or if it is a very, very finely tuned build order, which I wouldn't be surprised given the level of play that these guys have managed to achieve with the millions and millions upon millions of hours of experience that they must have. All right, we can see Blaudier is actually complaining his build order is not quite as smooth as last time around. That is unfortunate for him, but we had a bit of a false start. That's all right. We are going to have an actual game now, hopefully. If you judge by the replay size, this one is a whole lot bigger, so clearly needing to just select the larger replay in the first place. And what is this? There is an upgrade down for Nexus's ACU, but it is paused because he is flatlining on power. Wow, that is very, very finely balanced at the moment, and as soon as he can get some more of those power gens underway, he will... That's not an upgrade, that is a build, of course. He was just building and paused? In any case, he needs to get those power gens up and running so that he does not continue to flatline. And we just keep looking at that scoreboard, and wow, it just sits at the bottom. It will not fill back up, whereas Obfuscation managing to get that well under control, even though he's only on 200 income. That's a bit suspicious that he is on the exact same amount of power as Nexus, but Nexus has spent a whole lot more of it. That does not bode well for Obfuscation, and perhaps is something to do with his complaint there that his build order was not as smooth. And what is not going smooth is getting your transport spotted by interceptors, and oh, this is going to be absolutely terrible if it doesn't make landfall. Do we have micro? Yes, the micro coming in there from Blaudier. He's going to try and keep that interceptor away from the transport. That's going to give him the chance. There we go. He's got the interceptors on hand, and he has got the engineers making landfall. So that is nice for him. He's going to get that factory up and running, and he's actually a reasonable amount ahead of Nexus, who seems to have focused on producing interceptors and a bomber in order to try and do some offensive damage instead of getting his own island secured. So that's going to be a bit of a problem for Nexus, because now that there is a factory here, it is well secured, and he has got eyes on that because there are scouts overhead. He's going to know that that one bomber, that's just not going to really cut the mustard when it comes to being able to dislodge this base. And especially if there is an interceptor or two somewhere in the region, it's just not going to be able to do it. So he's actually going to divert the bomber. We can see there he's going to come back towards the center island and perhaps just hang off the coast, waiting to see if there are any engineer drops, because if he can pounce on it at just the right time, a close-knit formation of engies just dropped out of a transport makes a very, very juicy target for a bomber. All right, we've got finally Nexus's own transport coming on in. It is fully laden with engineers. That is a lot, and there's even a FAM in there to help it out. It does get pounced upon by those interceptors from Blaudier. He will need to drop the rest of those guys because the transport's going down any second now. And oh, it's not going to get out of there. No, it goes down. So fortunately, though, he did manage to save all of the engineering power that was on board, and he's going to use that to throw down a land factory very, very quickly. In fact, I don't know why these guys even bother trying to do multi-drops with those transports, because they always get pounced upon because their opponents are just so good. I mean, look at the level of play. We are really at the top end of FAF right now. Okay, we do have a transport coming in. Is the bomber going to be prepared for it? Oh, I'm not sure if it is. There is a couple of interceptors as well. So unfortunately, I think Nexus had the right idea, but just the wrong execution, because unless this bomber can do a very, very sneaky quick... Oh, no, it's going to do it. Oh, it did. That is absolutely amazing. I can't believe the skill level involved with that. Getting the bomber to drop that bomb so skillfully, took out the entire formation. That is absolutely beautiful play there from Nexus. It did cost him the bomber, but wow, that did a great job. But what is this? Another transport drop with a single NG, so no bomber around to take that one out this time. So it will slowly but surely be able to put that factory down, and that will give Obfuscation some control over the island, unless Nexus has some kind of plans to get back out there. And I don't know that he does right now, because his interceptors can't even keep Blaudier's units away from the skies above his own base. So that is not a great place to be. In fact, there's even some static AA going down there just because of a lack of air control. So that is definitely a win in the early stages of the air game to Blaudier. Look at the number of interceptors, even some bombers just for good measure. And that is going to go all in Blaudier's favor. So he's managed to secure just about the entire island on this side of the map. He's just got the two mexes still to go. He's got mass extractors, he's got power generators, factories. He is, what is that? That is another line of power gens. That's a very interesting place to decide to build it. He must have decided he was really short on power. And wow, look at the scoreboard. He really just about bottomed out there. He would maybe even stalled for a bit while I was not looking, but he is slowly getting that under control, being at plus 83 out of the 1,000 that he is currently producing, which is a good whack above what Nexus is doing at 740. So definitely an advantage there to Obfuscation to be able to pump out those air units. But Well, look at the mass income, 67 to Nexus to 57 of Obfuscation, which is really interesting given that Obfuscation got onto the island first. He now has land units on the center island as well, although no mass extractors as yet. But Nexus was really, really late to the party in terms of getting this island secured. And look, there's still a whole lot of mass that hasn't even been reclaimed yet. Look at all of that, and still, somehow, Nexus is ahead in terms of mass income, and that's just going to be purely down to the upgrades that he's been putting down here at home. Are any of these other outlying mass extractors T2? No, they are not. They definitely are not. So it's pretty much just the core mixers that have been upgraded. That is very interesting indeed. Actually, there is another island in the middle here between the two main ones that Blaudier has unfortunately forgotten to build, and he's just got a single NG working on that. So that's another 8 mass to boot that he will not have just as yet. He needs to get that construction completed to take advantage of it, and slowly being able to catch up. I think he was about equal when Nexus was power stalling, so as soon as Nexus runs out of power to run those mixers, then Blaudier is back on par with him. But that's not a very reliable way to play the game, because as soon as your opponent gets their mass and power under control, you are at a big, big disadvantage. These two bombers trying to just clean up this island, but there are interceptors waiting for them. That is going to be a no-go zone for those dark purple bombers for Obfuscation. Meanwhile, he's trying to get his own mass extractors built over here, and it looks like the plan is to build those out and then even get a naval factory down there as well. Both these guys not looking to be super offensive at the moment. They're just starting to think about building naval factories and building frigates as well, which will be the main line attack for the first part of the sea engagement that we're going to see. But so far, really not pushing it. Even though these guys sitting up in the 80s for mass, they still have not quite got enough to really focus on those naval games just yet. They're still trying to get all of their expansion under control and just make sure they've got everything they need, especially in power. And we can see Nexus there still not managing to really get away from his power situation. He is, well, drawing minus 300. There's got to be some kind of upgrade going on. Is he building a T2? There we go. He is getting his first Tech 2 power generator online, and that's going to very handily sort out his power problems. Going to jump up to 1.5, but Blaudier already there, so he is slightly ahead in terms of getting that T2 power up to spec. All right, we've even got some Corsairs. What is the plan for those? Blaudier has invested in 3 Corsairs, 4 Corsairs so far, so he is actually really pushing it. Let's have a look at the air factory that is making those, because they are, well, there's a transport coming out now. What is he going to do with a T2 transport? Oh, I'm not quite sure, but is he going to go back to Corsair production? He will momentarily, I suspect, but he's going to start building another T2 gen as well, but he's on plus 585 power overflowing at the moment, so he's got plenty to work with. But what is the plan for those Corsairs? Well, it looks like they're going to try and come in and clear out this island, which is not a great plan because his air support was way behind. So his own interceptors not joining the party until after the Corsairs are all pretty much dismantled. There's still, I think, a couple left in there, but still the timing on that really needs some work so that the interceptors take the brunt of the action, clear out the skies as much as they can before the Corsairs come into play. But of course that's given enough time for all of these engineers, and that is a big stack of engineers. They are now building static AA, so they are going to make that island more and more difficult to attack. So I'm not quite sure what Blaudier's plan is there. He invested quite a bit in those Corsairs, and so far only managing to clear out 2 mass extractors. That is not necessarily a worthwhile investment unless he can make it count. What have we got here? We've got a couple more Corsairs. What is the plan? I think a strike on the Tech 2 power gens would be a very good one right now. Is that what we're going to see? That is indeed what we're going to see. A single pass from 2 Corsairs takes out that power gen, and that immediately drops Nexus into a slight deficit. He's going to have to alter his power usage, and he's going to have to shoot those down before they get a second pass. It looks like he will successfully do that with these interceptors on the tail. No. Okay, it looks like a single Corsair managed to come around for a second pass. It will not get a third, but that actually means that it is just a single Corsair run away from putting big dents into that eco for Nexus, and a deficit of power at the stage would be kind of hard to come back from, because it would have been all of his T2 power. I do believe, yeah, that was the only rare gen that he had left, and so he'd be relying solely on all of those T1 generators to continue trying to rebuild his eco. After that, we can see Nexus sitting on the 1.5k with just the one T2 gen still, and 2.4 for Blaudier, so he is starting to run away with the power game. That's actually slowly getting up towards the levels of being able to make a T3 upgrade. What are we going to see with that? Okay, we're going to see some NG's probably getting some T3 power fairly soon, because he's got a lot of an advantage in terms of that power game over Nexus. And whoa, what have we got? This is a Medusa drop, so they're going to come on in. Are there any T2 mixes in there? Well, not quite, because these two here are still on T1, but they are mostly upgraded to T2, so they are going to be very, very easy to kill, and that's going to be really costly for Nexus. There's another T2 mix over here as well, which is going to go down very quickly. We've got gunships, emergency gunships, coming in to try and deal with Medusas. Are they going to be able to do it fast enough? Look how quickly the HP is dropping off that mix, and that is going to do very large amounts of damage to the eco. The gunships are on hand now. They are slowly damaging those Medusas. They will not get another mix, but still, we can see there is a big deficit of mass that suddenly dropped in there and caused Nexus a little bit of heartache, because he's down to 108 power to the 132 of Blaudier. So Blaudier is still having the advantage of these central mixes as well, which have got a bunch of units to ward away drops, and managing to clear out that bit on Nexus's home island. That is a fantastic play there. But Blaudier not getting all of the shots in. He's got a missing mix over this side of the map. But unfortunately for Nexus, the frigate there just doing a lot of damage to the cliff face. And, well, that's not going to do a whole lot of work. Alright, we've also got some frigates trying to pick up the peripheral mixes around here, and well, this is a good pickup from Nexus, because that is a T2 mix. It has been upgraded, but it is within range of all of these frigates, so they're going to sit there and plink away. It will take a minute or so, but they will manage to take that out, and that's going to start taking pegs off Obfuscation's economy as well. So there is really not much we're seeing apart from tit for tat as these guys push forward and back. But what is this? Nexus is obviously feeling super confident with this, because he has air control in the area. Well, I hope he sure has air control in the area, because now he's got his commander on a transport. He's going to roll on in. He's going to be just outside that Tech 1 PD range. But what is going to be the play here? He's going to throw down some Tech 2 point defense. That's going to help clear the area, but he definitely needs to make sure he has got air coverage and that he doesn't lose that while his ACU is across there, because that's what we saw happen to Zlo. Zlo managed to bring his ACU all the way across the other side of the map, but then suddenly he did not have proper air support, he didn't have naval support, and he got absolutely cut off and destroyed. So now that first point defense is up and running, but it is taking fire from Medusas that Blaudier has put out there. So Blaudier well aware of the situation, and in addition to the damage from those Medusas, it does get frozen every single time one of those lands, and it puts a stun on the point defense. So that is a nice feature of the Medusa, but I'm not sure if it is going to be enough. Well, it could potentially be enough. How is Nexus looking? Oh, unfortunately, if we look at the scoreboard, Nexus running out of mass. He's sitting right down on an empty jar of mass, and that is going to be very, very difficult to build a fire base with a commander that has been dropped. So down goes that second ACU. This is not looking good for Nexus. It looked kind of good to start with. Ooh, but I think the tide might be turning, especially now that there is a Salem-class destroyer turning up for Obfuscation, and that means the ACU is actually within range of the destroyer fire. And look at how quickly that HP bar is dropping every time those come in, and Nexus knows he has not got a heckin' chance to deal with that. And also, just for good measure, we missed a whole lot of action down the bottom with ASF from Obfuscation, and there was even a couple of Wagners that had made landfall on the base. So Nexus really not managing to make up for that. He was a bit behind from the late start on the island, and well, that did not go very well at all. Whoa, okay, so that is the end of the top bracket. So now what we have to do is find out who is going to come back from the bottom bracket. That means one of these guys is going to have to win that second match down at the bottom and come back, and that's going to be against Blaudier, because Blaudier is completely undefeated through this top part of the tournament. All right, let's go and find that match, and we'll be right back. Alright, welcome back. We have found the next match, and it is going to be that top end of the bottom bracket. So what's happened is Zlo has managed to fight his way right to the tippy top end of that, and Nexus, who just lost his first match, he's going to go down into that bottom bracket to face him. We're not showing it in the screen here, but that is what is happening. So we are going to be looking at Nexus taking on Zlo. The winner of this is going to be a comeback through to the top bracket and have a chance at taking down Blaudier. And if they can do that, they'll need to take him down again, because it's double elimination, and Blaudier effectively has 2 lives. But that is just how the cookie crumbles. So we are good to go. We have got the game ready, and we are going to check out Nexus versus Zlo. And here we are. So let's resume the game. Let's put the scoreboard on the correct sides and see what's going to go down on Via 3 Protectorate. Wow, this is a very classic map. It is a very land spammy map, and if the previous games that I have seen are anything to judge by, Zlo is going to be very, very hard to beat, because he is going to just be an absolute madman and spam T1 like there is no tomorrow. So let's see how he gets on with that. He is going to be Cybran once again. He is going to throw down that first land factory. He's getting adjacency on just a single mix, and then there's quite a large number of T1 power gens we can see. Those are going to support the air factory and also support all of the mass that is going to be pulled up. And look at how much mass there is. Wow, that is a stunning amount. So Zlo is going to have lots of power to be able to deal with that. All right, up in the top right corner, we have got Nexus once again going Seraphim. He's going to put that first land factory down, and how many power gens have we got? We've got the 1, 2, 3 on this side, and then another 6 there. So that is a good number for him as well before he gets air and then some more land factories as well. He has also got some plans to get out this way and build back here. So this is a good move in terms of the expansion, because that means this factory is a little bit further back. It's harder to get to, harder to destroy, and not quite as vulnerable as if you build them all the way out here. So a bunch of land factories around this mix, and maybe even just properly around the mix. Well, actually, no, what is that? Is that a radar? Yeah, that'll be to try and get some eyes on any incoming units, but that will, having the factory back there, just provide a little bit of support to get out to the front line. Okay, we've got the first couple of units out from Zlo. We've got 2 hunters by the look of it, not wanting to go straight for Mantis, so he's going to go for the slightly cheaper alternative of light assault pods. So we can see the plans for them zooming up across here. Then they cross paths. One of them is going to try and take out any engineer building this expansion. And is that an engineer? Yes, it is. So it actually is a very good play there from Zlo. And the other hunter is going to come up and try and catch any engineer that's going to be building those 2 mass extractors. Are we seeing any signs of aggression from Nexus? Well, not so much so far. We do have a single FAM out, so he's not going light assault bot. He's going for a full T1 tank with radar coverage as well, just to be safe, and he's going to send that across that way. So I think he is anticipating some kind of early raid from Zlo. He's going to bring the FAM in to keep that engineer alive. The goal for this FAM will be to ensure this factory gets built. And what is this? We've got more hunters out here for Zlo. That is going to come up the left side of the map and pick up the engineer if that is not cared for by the THAMs. So that could be interesting, and potentially Zlo could stall that expansion by taking out that Engie if he is fast enough, but he will have to get there a bit more quickly, I suspect, and then somehow get around the THAM, so he will be needing some epic micro to make that happen. I'm not sure that it will come off. Alright, so we've got another big line of power going down there for Nexus. He's realizing he needs a whole lot of power. Well, he probably already knew because he's played this map a million times, and he's going to get the power underway to continue building. So the engineering unit, also known as the ACU, that's what I'm trying to say, is going to come out to the left here, and then think about pushing forward perhaps. So he is going to certainly send a few units to try and raid, but I think at this point it is going to be quite a bit too late. He is being on the defensive from Zlo's units. He managed to take out that hunter, preserving the engineer, but what is this? This is a very, very nice play here from Zlo, managing to realize that he did not get the engineer that was there. He brings that second hunter down and is going to pick it up. Oh, he has to move, he has to make sure he gets it and not focus the... There we go. He focused the mix for just a second, but he will secure the target and take out the engineer that was building that expansion. So that's going to be a really nice pickup for Zlo, because the next NG is all the way back here. That's going to waste 30-40 seconds of Nexus's time while he redirects an engineer and waits for it to get all the way out to the front there. So a good move from Zlo, who actually his own engineer is not really managing to get out to the front lines yet either, because he's focusing so much on that hunter spam, but he is going to soon have those expansions up. And while this is a very ambitious plan, 3 land factories, that's going to take quite some time to complete. We can see the ETA being 4 minutes away. I would be surprised if he can keep that free from being raided for 4 minutes, although at the speed that these guys are going, 4 minutes is not an unachievable target at all. How are these guys going in the air game? Well, there's not a lot going on. They built that 1 air factory, well actually 2 air factories, so Zlo thinking about going serious air, but so far not a lot. So he is going to be producing double air. And what do we got from Nexus? Well, just a single. So that tells us Nexus is really not going to be focusing on that air game. He's going to be continuing to push land spam. But so far, about as far as he's pushed up is over here. There is a THAM sitting down here. It's taken a teensy bit of damage from that hunter, but it's really not being offensive. And just look at the number of units coming across from Zlo. Now, Nexus does have a good number of THAMs on hand to deal with it, but what he is not going to be able to do is have those THAMs in all the places at once. So Zlo, by hitting and fading, by bringing 1 or 2 Mantis in a time, he's able to either distract THAMs from their positions where Nexus wants them to be, or he's going to be able to get through the gaps and pick up engineer kills. Like this is probably going to happen right now, unless that Engie manages to somehow magically slip through the gap. Yes, it threaded the needle between the firing ranges of those Mantis, and it is actually going to survive unless Zlo manages to turn around and pick it up. But right now, Zlo is really directing what Nexus is having to do. So Nexus being very responsive and not really having a chance to make his own plays. Like, we're not seeing any actual assault plans from Nexus. We're not seeing any real raiding going on, because this doesn't count as raiding. That's just sitting around looking at the bushes doing absolutely nothing. So he is not able to call any shots right now. He does have his AC on the front line. It's going to stop a couple of Mantis like this from being able to get through. Well, it's going to stop one group, but then the other group's going to slip around behind him. So fortunately he does have a few more THAMs to try and deal with any strays, but still not a whole lot of units really relying on that ACU to provide security on the left hand side. So any Mantis that can get through, like what is clearly trying to happen here with Zlo, if he can get around there with a couple of Mantis, well, those engineers are going to be quite vulnerable, especially because that's a radar, that's not even a point defense. These 2-3 Mantis, oh, that is going to be extremely brutal on the engineering core that has been put in place by Nexus. There is one, here we go, there is another 4 THAMs coming in to support, and well, he's even bombers, because that was a very nice bit of intel that Zlo picked up. He takes out 2 more engineers. So while Nexus has got the area reasonably secure, Zlo just managing to perform these amazing little acts of sabotage and just get in there, causing all sorts of havoc, just trying to get under the skin of Nexus, and it looks like it is really working, and he's going to have to back up, but still, it is completely occupying Nexus's ACU. He's not able to respond, and he's not even doing anything with all of these tanks over here, all of these tanks being 4, but still, not enough there. So this is really not going Nexus's favor at all. He needs a lot more T1 spam. How many factories are these guys running? So we've got 4 land factories around here in addition to that first one. So there's 5. We've got another group of 4. We've got another 4 spread out across here. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th being planned there. And then we've got these 3 factories as well that were built by that solo hero engineer. That is a lot of land factories, and let's just look at what Nexus has. Well, he has got 1 out the front there. He has got, it looks like 5, 6 in the middle here, and then just a couple more here. So really not able to get the same level of spam out from Zlo. How's the eco going? Well, Zlo's sitting on just 28, so he's probably relying solely on reclaim. We can see 8,500 reclaim to the 5.7 that Nexus has managed to do. So that is where the difference is coming. So Zlo focusing on reclaiming and just spamming the ever-living daylights out of Nexus's positions. And well, so far it is giving a massive amount of map control to Zlo. He does need to make sure he uses some of the engineers that are floating around to build the mexes, and that's exactly what we see here. We've got 1 engineer he could probably do with a little support, and another one going up this way would be really great to see as well. Of course, he'll need support. But look at this, there's just this green swarm, and how is he doing this on 30 mass per tick? He's only on 3/4 of what Nexus is producing, but he is just owning the map. This is absolutely crazy. The ACU for Nexus, they're managing to deal with the Mantis that are on hand, so he's got away with that. How many kills has he got? Well, just the 8 of them so far. But still, look at the Mantis being able to get in and around because there's this gap in the cliff face there. Wow, Zlo is just absolutely finding all these little gaps. There's even engineers now just taking fire from this Mantis, and Zlo obviously has the capabilities to see that that's going on and just bring those Mantis into position, and they're going to finish off those Engis, and there's even more coming into boot. So Nexus, even in chat, is complaining about the shooty raids that just coming from everywhere. They're just hitting him from left, right, center, back, forwards, absolutely everywhere on his positions. And there's even some bombers from Zlo. This is absolutely mad play, and the ACU taking a bomber run there as well, sitting on 10,900, but more engineers going down to those bombers, whereas Nexus's air defenses, well, they are non-existent. In fact, Zlo not even bothering with defenses for his bombers. He's just spamming bombers. He won't bother building interceptors because he just builds more bombers. That's just crazy. Meanwhile, more Mantis getting in the middle here. He's outnumbered again everywhere where there's a good number of units from Nexus. He does outnumber the raids, but then somewhere, magically, another raid's going to pop up somewhere else, and he doesn't have the units to deal with it. So he's just constantly trying to plug holes in the dike as they come up, and they are still just spewing Mantis on through. That is absolutely ridiculous. We've got a whole lot more units down here from Zlo. He's managed to bring a decent army to the party this time, and he's hitting the formation end on. That's no good for Nexus. He's going to lose that. He does manage to reform them, but not before he loses a whole bunch. All Zlo has to do is move up with that set of units, and they're going to punch right through this left, this left for Nexus. If you're Nexus and facing your opponent, left side of his defenses, and that is no good at all. So just absolutely everywhere we've got these little groups of Mantis just causing all sorts of difficulty, ready to go. I don't know, if we were to view Zlo's machine right now, we would just see a crazy flurry of mouse blurring around the screen and clicks everywhere. It would be absolutely ridiculous. He's even managed to clear out the center here. He's cleared the civilian defenses. He's got engineers now building the mexes, and how many is that? That's another 8 mass extractors that he can build, which Nexus probably hasn't even thought about getting because he's too busy dealing with all these raids. He started building bombers of his own, so we can see purple bombers overhead now trying to do damage to those mantis, and they certainly are, because that tactic that Zlo has of not actually building any interceptors to defend those bombers, well, that's starting to turn around and bite him. He does have a couple back here, but he really needs to get those into position now that Nexus has got his own air superiority going. But I think the plan might be just to produce too many mantis so that Nexus can't possibly bomb them all. I think that is the plan here. So what on earth? I just don't know, but there are dead mexes there, so this plan is definitely working. Nexus is just still so busy responding to everything. He doesn't have this expansion. What does the scoreboard look like? Well, Zlo, he's managed to move up to 59 mass per tick, which is a big advantage over Nexus. All of this raiding has just really cut down all of the mass that Nexus has access to. That's including reclaim as well, because Nexus just can't even get into these areas with engineers to pull up the reclaim. So meanwhile, look at all of the stuff that Zlo has pulled in. There's lots of clear areas in here where the engineers have really done a fantastic job of pulling that reclaim in. And look at that 24, nearly 25,000 reclaim for Zlo to the 9,000 for Nexus. That is absolutely insane. That's what all these mantis are coming from. That's how he is fueling this ridiculous engine of death. Just spam, 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 just a constant stream. If we did a count up now, there would be hundreds of units for Zlo, and there's just nothing there in any one place that can really hold them back. Look, they're starting to punch through the center now. There's very few units. They're just drifting in from Nexus, not able to have the numbers they need to get rid of that. So a couple more mexes are going down. Bombers still overhead, but we can see that Zlo has actually mixed some T1AA in there, and that's okay because he's got so many units on the ground that if you make some of them into AA units, there's still plenty more to destroy things. It's absolutely fine. So he's going to use those to ward away the bombers, still not really bothering with interceptors. In fact, no, he's got just hardly any interceptors at all. This was just madness. Alright, so he's going to continue plinking away at those bombers, trying to get rid of them, continuing to bring up more green units. Wow, this is just absolutely insane. And we can see comments there in the chat. Zlo plays as Crazy Rush. It is almost like a Crazy Rush map, that is for sure, because that is just a stupid number of spam, and we can see slowly just advancing across. This area still not really being pushed into. Zlo could easily start to push into here now and do a lot of damage. There's a lot of interceptors around, but really nothing for them to do now. So Zlo forced Nexus to build interceptors because of the bombers that he was using, and now those interceptors are sitting around doing absolutely nothing while the ground-based AA takes out the bombers. So this is definitely a Russian-style attack where you just give every other man a gun, and when someone dies, you just grab the gun and you just keep on fighting. And that's what these mantis are doing. They're just keeping on fighting. Every time a mantis dies, 2 mantis form up behind him to take his place, and they are starting to lay fire down on this ACU as well, dropping down into the yellow 9,000. Wow, this is absolutely crazy. We have seen some really skillful play from Nexus, but absolutely nothing to deal with this ridiculous amount of spam. All these mexes still empty. Look, even this expansion here, which feels like it should be really secure, just is not. Nexus is absolutely sick and tired of trying to deal with this endless amount of spam. Look at the map. It is just absolutely nuts. Anyway, that is a win to Zlo, so that means Zlo is actually going to come back up into our top bracket and potentially be able to defeat Blodea. So it maybe will depend on the map as to exactly how that works. Alright guys, that will be the end of this video. We'll have a separate one coming out to cover that final between Blodea and Zlo and see who comes out on top for the qualifying tournament. Wow, okay, and we've also got the second qualifying tournament coming up as well, so plenty of Forged Alliance action coming your way. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe, and I'm always open to feedback. So anything that you liked or didn't like about the video, make sure you hit me up in the comments below. and we can continuously improve. Right, that's all for now. I'll see you guys next time.